Welcome to the Sanity Project podcast, the place for internet technology professionals whose work-life balance plan has imploded. We are here to provide solutions that will help the IT pro live a sane, healthy, and prosperous life. Here's your host, Joanne Victoria.
Hi, this is Joanne Victoria with another amazing episode of the Sanity Project podcast. The Sanity Project podcast, my guests are people from the self-development, personal development, IT communities who share their wisdom, expertise, and solutions that will help the IT pro live a sane, healthy, and prosperous life. Sanity being the most important thing. And we get a little bit of touch of sanity and insanity at the same time from our guest today, who is Dr. Cletus R. Bulach. He is a retired Ohio school superintendent and associate professor emeritus at the University of West Georgia. He is the author of numerous articles in education journals and is co-author of 2 books, Soul, Climate, and Cultural Vis-à-vis Student Learning, Keys to Collaborative Problem Solving and Responsibility, and a second book called Enhancing a High-Performing School Culture and Climate, New Insights for Improving Schools, which is what Dr. Bulach has been trying to do for decades. The second book focuses on human relations problems that interfere with creating a positive school culture and climate, poor interpersonal communications, and the inability to cope with conflict. Conflict is something we're going to talk about today. Dr. Bulach is going to share his perspective on the 5 conflict management styles and how to give control without giving it up. Delicate balance, but I'm sure Clete will help us. Welcome to the show, Dr. Clete Bulach.
Well, it's a pleasure being back on your show, Joanne. I enjoyed my last visit with you.
Well,
I like your comment about sanity and insanity. That's a good one.
Well, it just worked out that way when I was originally naming the podcast, and I think I have starting a YouTube channel called The Sanity Project, spelled the same way, S-A-N, capital I, capital T, because sanity is what, in my perception, it's really all about. You know, it's a bottom line word. You know, you're either sane or you're insane. And if you're insane in a good way, like I am, that's good. But if you're insane in a bad way, like you're a leader who creates stress and strife with your employees, or your manager does the same thing, that's not a good thing. And then it drives the employee or the worker, or however you want to call them, and also other people who, small business owners, it drives them to drink, literally and figuratively. There's a lot of drinking going on in the IT world. There's a lot of millennials winding up in AA recently. And
well, this is true. And it's also true that insanity oftentimes is caused by the inability to cope with conflict. So
yes.
We'll start with that, and then we'll move to how do you give control to people without giving it up, which is the mark of leadership.
Yes, that's a fine task I want to hear about. Okay, so what about the 5 conflict management styles?
Well, when I usually do this talk on that, I usually talk about the conflict management styles of Trump versus Obama. Is that okay with you?
It's fine. People can handle it. If they're not grown up to handle it, they can just shut it off. Well, you gotta start somewhere. And if you're sharing the conflict management styles of each of these 2 individuals who are polarizing in their own significant ways, it's a lesson. People need to take everything that they hear as a lesson, not as an attack.
Yeah, I like to use current examples of the styles.
Yeah, people have to have a touchstone that they can recognize. Right. Oh, okay, Trump. Oh, okay, Obama. I recognize those. Tell me about them. And
when I wrote the book on how to improve schools, I realized that when people implement the change that I advocate in book 1, they run into problems. One of which is how they deal with conflict. That's chapter 2 in book number 2. Okay, so here are the 5 styles. Each of the 5 styles has a win or a loss. So it can be win-win, win-lose, lose-win, lose-lose, and avoid is the fifth style. Okay. When I look at President Trump, he's a classic example of the competitive style, which is I win, you lose. If you look at how he dealt with his adversaries in trying to become the presidential nominee, he took them all on, and he won against all of them. I win, you lose. Classic. When you look at the way he deals with the media, he says, you guys are fake news. I'm going to win. You ain't going to get me. You're not going to beat me down. I win, you lose. Does that make sense to you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. He also, in his book he wrote about the deal, he looks at the other two styles, which is collaborative, which is win-win. He tries to figure out what each party wants and what he can give them so they can win, and what he can get without giving anything up. So in the collaborative style, which is not used that often in meetings, compromise is the style that is used most often. Compromise is lose-lose.
No kidding. I don't even like saying the word.
Well, here's how it works. He's got this wall he wants to build, right?
Sure.
He's having trouble getting Congress to give him the money. So about 3 weeks ago, he came back with a deal. Mm-hmm. He says, I'm going to give you guys this. He's willing to lose some things. He's going to give them DACA. He's going to give them the Dreamers. He's going to give them a 3-year window before anybody gets arrested and gets sent back. So that's a lose for him. Mm-hmm. So that goes to Congress, and Congress, of course, rejected all of it. Or the House of Reps rejected it. So his attempt to compromise did not work. So he has used lose-lose before in his meeting with Kim Jong, the dictator of North Korea. Mm-hmm. He said, look, you guys, if you will give up your nuclear program, lose. If they lose it, I will help you build your country to be a stronger country than it is now. So he is going to lose something to give them what they need to become a stronger country. That's lose-lose. Compromise is lose-lose. Mm-hmm. It's the most frequent thing that occurs in any collective bargaining agreement. If you look at what's going on in the United States right now with teacher unions who are going on strike in 3 states, I believe? I think one is Arkansas, one is California, and I forget where the other one is that's been in the news lately, but those collective bargaining agreements, they come to the table with, and I have taught collective bargaining at the graduate level, and it's all about lose-lose. It's all about coming to the table with 20 things you want, and then you give up things to get what you want.
Right.
So it's lose-lose. And that's what collective bargaining tends to be. And then you come to accommodate, which is I lose, you win. Many parents accommodate their kids. You agree?
Yeah.
They give things to their kids, and the kids take them, and the kid wins, and the parent gives up something to give the kid what they want. Now, that's not what I call giving control to the kids without giving it up. They just give. They don't get anything except the relationship between the kids and the parents. Accommodate is a style that happens a lot with parents. Now, when you get to President Obama, he was highly competitive too. If you recall the incident where he couldn't work with Congress, and he said, all right, you guys, I'm sitting here at my desk. I've got my telephone and I've got my pen. I'll just do my executive orders. You guys can go do what to yourself, you know?
Sure.
Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Highly competitive. I win, you lose. But when he dealt with foreign relations, he was an entirely different animal. Let's just look at the first instance is when he met the king of Saudi Arabia. He actually knelt in front of him. Like he accommodated this king of Saudi Arabia. He's the president of the United States. What's he doing that? It was a win-lose thing. Then when he dealt with Iran, he gave them back $1.5 billion. What did we get out of that? Nothing. They won, we lost. Then when you had the Bo Bergdahl, we got one prisoner back for 5 of their elite commanders. We lose, they won. Then when he gave $400 million in cash to the Iranian government to get back one prisoner, we lose, they win. How about the Cuba deal? What did we get out of that?
Well, what did he get out of this?
Nothing. We got nothing out of it.
No, not us. What did he get out of it on a personal level?
When it comes to foreign relations, he believed that the United States was a bully. And it was his job to show that the United States was not going to tell other countries what to do. And look at the climate accord in Paris. We gave it all away. China had 20 years to meet or 10 years to meet the obligations of the climate accord, and we had to meet them right away. So when it came to foreign relations, he was an accommodator. The United States lost, and whoever he dealt with won. I don't know whether you agree with that or not, but
no, it's. I just thought there were ulterior motives in everything he did. So,
well, that gets back to trust. Trust has 5 factors. One of which is authenticity. Who is this guy? What does he care about? Can you trust him? There were so many questions about who this guy was. Where was he born? Is he a citizen? Where did he go to school? Did he really do that? Did he really do this? And on with the trust factors. One of which is authenticity, what I call an overall character dimension. Caring is a very important part of that trust factor. What did he really care about? Was it all about himself? When it comes to trust, there are 2 important characteristics when you meet other people. I'm digressing here off a conflict for a minute. 2 important characters. When you meet somebody, Joanne, they come across either as servant leaders who care about you or self-serving. Those are the 2 qualities that, and of course it varies between leaders, but if you perceive someone as self-serving, do you trust them?
Nope.
No. If you perceive them as they are there to help you, to serve you, to work with you, do you trust them?
Yep.
Yeah. So that's the characteristic. And in many ways, Obama came across as self-serving. Trump, on the other hand, says, I want to make America great again. So that says he is a servant leader, but a lot of people don't believe that. They still think he's there because he is an egomaniac. He is self-serving. So we don't really know where he is on that particular quality.
I just think he goes back and forth into whatever serves the purpose and whatever gets things done. And
he's very pragmatic. That's true.
Oh, yeah. So, okay, let me just recap here. I'm going back to the beginning. We have the competitive style of conflict management. Competitive, is that correct? Competitive.
I win, you lose. Yeah.
Okay, then we have the accommodator.
Lose, win.
Okay, lose, win, lose. And then I'm looking here. Give me a couple. Collaborative.
Collaborative is the win-win. And cooperate or compromise is lose-lose. And then you have the fifth style, which is probably the one I've had difficulty with through my years of leadership at my age of 80.
Mm-hmm.
I have dealt in my 14 years as a school superintendent, principal, and teacher. I have dealt with many, many problems over the years, and I've always taken them on because I felt it was my job as a leader to solve them. But actually, avoiding conflict is the mark of a true leader.
Yep.
When should you avoid a conflict and when should you take it on? All conflicts are not meant to be solved.
Right. And just even, excuse me, labeling the content with the word conflict already creates a problem.
True.
Because not everything is a conflict.
That is true. You've heard of the women are from Venus and men are from Mars.
Mm-hmm.
And men from Mars think they've got to solve every conflict that comes along.
I know the guy, John Gray. Mm-hmm.
No, it's not true. You don't need to solve every conflict that comes along. And knowing when to solve them and when to take them on is the mark of a true leader. Trump, on the other hand, he's from Mars. He thinks he's got to solve every conflict. Here are the 4 ways to avoid a conflict, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to use the first one. Remember that, what was that young reporter? His name was Billy somebody, where they were talking about women, and President Trump says,
oh yeah, Billy Bush.
You can just grab them anywhere you want.
Right.
Okay, that was a conflict right there. Okay, what should he have done? Well, he said, where did you hear that? And he took it right on. He should not have done that.
No, but I don't think he was as experienced or as sensitive as he thought he was.
No.
I know we're naming names here, but what are they going to do? Sue me?
Yeah.
Here's
the style he should have used, the avoidance conflict he should have used. It's called negative assertion. Negative assertion. You get accused of doing something stupid, doing something wrong, and you're on the spot. You say, oh my gosh, I should never have done that. That was the stupidest thing I ever did. I don't know why I was that stupid. Negative assertion. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you get a little humble.
Yeah. If he had done that, the conflict would have still been there, but it wouldn't have been as bad as it's been. Then you come to the second one. You do something stupid, and somebody says, that was stupid. Why did you do that? And you say, oh my gosh, what could I have done that would have made that better? Negative inquiry. You see what it does? It throws it right back at the person who's accusing you.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're on the conflict to resolve the conflict in a harmonious way. So you get the other person to work with you as opposed to you working against them.
But that person who goes, what have I done? What could I have done to make it turn out another way? They could either be, number one, manipulative, because that is a manipulative situation, or what was the other word I was going to say? Were they telling the truth? Did they really, or did they, that's again part of the manipulative process, were they telling the truth about, oh my Lord, what have I done? If it were true, if the energy behind the statement was factual instead of, sarcastic, then we got a different thing going on. But I don't want to make anything worse here. But
well, manipulation, whenever you're perceived as a manipulator, and when we get into the 9 forms of power, one of those forms is manipulation.
mm-hmm.
When you're perceived as manipulating, you're gone. The wall goes up between you and the other person if you're perceived as manipulating, but But if the negative inquiry is an honest response, and it's
Sure.
Oh my gosh, and in many cases with parents in particular, husband and wife, how many times in a month do I do something that offends my wife? And it's just human relations. You're going to. It's going to happen. But if you say, "Oh, I didn't mean to do that. What should I have done?" On this talk show, for example, my wife is going to critique it. And I'll say, "Well, what do you think I could have done better?" And it's an honest response. I really want the feedback. So negative inquiry is a powerful tool for avoiding conflict. Here's one that I used many, many times with my kids, with teachers when I was a principal, with teachers when I was a superintendent. You have certain rules in a household, in a school, or wherever you are, one of which is what time do you clock in, when is curfew, and so forth. Here with my kids, and I've got 5, curfew's 12 o'clock. If they came in at 12:15, I would say, curfew's 12 o'clock. They said, "Well, Dad, you don't understand. When we were coming home, my girlfriend," and I says, "Curfew's 12 o'clock. But Dad, curfew's 12 o'clock. Dad, curfew's 12 o'clock. Dad, curfew's 12 o'clock. Broken record. Don't ever get sucked into the explanation of why they broke curfew.
No, it's because it's all a lie anyway.
Yeah.
It's just, but you've got to stick to your principles. If you made a rule and they agreed to the rule,
right.
And now, even if they didn't agree to the rule, that is the rule.
With teachers who came in late routinely, I would say clock in is 7 a.m. It's 7:15. Oh, well, on curfew, clock in 7 a.m. You're late. They keep explaining curfew 7 a.m. You're late. Don't get sucked into it.
Right.
Now, it's true that as a leader, there are times when you want to listen. It's the mark of leadership. Listening is the single most human relations characteristic that helps what happens in relationships. Listening. Openness has 2 characteristics, 2 factors. One is telling and one is listening. Most people are very good on the telling dimension and not on the listening. But there are times as a leader and as a parent when you need to listen. So maybe there really was something that caused the kid to come in late. And if you listen, it might help with the relationship. But you can't get sucked into all of these excuses for why people are late, why they didn't do this and why they didn't do that. So the broken record is a major, major tool. If you feel you're being used, okay? Does that make sense to you?
Terrible sense. Yes, I'm a parent, so I know that.
Okay. Here's the 4th one. We've got negative assertion, negative inquiry, and broken record. And the 4th one is called fogging. I don't know where I got this. I went to a seminar on conflict back in the 80s in Philadelphia, and they gave me that term. Fogging. Let's say somebody insults you. And I'm sure you've been insulted in the past, haven't you?
Oh, God, yes.
It happens every day, not every day, but it happens to everybody listening out there. You're going to get insulted somewhere down the road.
Right.
And somebody insults you and you say, "Oh, you could say that." Bang. You don't say, "What do you mean?" And get into it with them.
It happens. Say, you just that's, I guess, I would say now if somebody tried to do something, it's true. It sometimes happens.
Oh, no, you would never say that's true.
Oh, okay.
Because that's an agreement.
Okay. Oh, God, I don't want to agree.
You never agree with an insult. You say, "Well, you could say that."
I see.
You could say that's possible. Other people might say that. You always fog it. You never agree with the insult.
So we have negative assertion, negative inquiry, fogging, and did I miss one?
Broken record.
Broken record.
That's the conflict. Chapter 2 goes into the 3 ways to deal with the conflict, but I don't think we have time for that here.
No, but I want to move on to how to give control without giving it up.
Okay, that's an intriguing one. My book has a number of suggestions on how to do it. Here's my favorite one. It's called expectations diagnosis. Okay. When I was a teacher, principal, superintendent, and college professor, I always went to the people the first day, and I had a bunch of 3x5 cards, and I gave everybody 3 of them, and I said, anybody wants more, they can have more cards. I said, what do you expect of me as your teacher? What do you expect of me as your principal? What do you expect of me as your superintendent? What do you expect of me as your college professor? And they would look at me like I was crazy. They say, you want us to tell you what we expect? I says, yeah, I want to know. Because, when you look out there, any leader listening to this, when you look out there, you've got people from all walks of life, all different colors. Some are rich, some are poor, some have had a privileged background, some have had hard knocks. What do they expect of you? There's a culture in every organization. It's what they value and believe should happen in this organization, in this church, in this school, in this group, in this business. It's called the culture, the underlying culture in the group. You need to know what's out there. So when you do that, and they give you their expectations, you find out what they value and believe should happen with you as their leader. You identify the existing culture. Okay. So that is giving control. You're giving control to them, but you sure haven't given it up, right?
Correct.
So you even now have more control because you know what they expect of you. So you can meet their expectations and you can tell them, I'm going to try to meet your this is what you said. And I'm going to try to meet your expectations because I am here to serve you. I'm your leader, but I am here to serve. I want to know what you expect. I'm listening to you. I trust you. I'm taking the risk to be open to you. So the relationship gets started. And if there's an expectation they want that you can't meet, you tell them why you can't meet it. So the relationship between the leader and the follower is set. And it's amazing what that happens in a classroom as a teacher when the kids know that you're there to work for them. Because in most cases, when I interviewed kids in West Virginia, when I got the contract to evaluate every school district in the state of West Virginia, I would ask them, what do you like about school? They said, the teachers. I says, and what don't you like about school? And they said, the teachers. I says, well, tell me about that. They says, well, some of the teachers care about us. They want to help us learn. They'll listen to us, and they are there to help us. Then you get these other teachers that come in and they don't care about us. They put their feet up on their chair and they drink their cup of coffee and they look at us and they say, all right, you guys, I'm here to teach. If you're here to learn, we're going to get along just fine. If you're not here to learn, that's your problem. They don't care about us.
Right.
And I digress there a little bit.
It's okay.
Help me get back on track. Oh, we're talking about the 9 forms of power, right?
No, not today. We're talking about 5 conflict management styles, which I think we have clear.
We just finished that.
Right. And then we have to go how to gain control without giving it up.
Okay.
And that's when you invite your audience, whoever it may be.
That's my favorite technique.
Yes.
On how to give control without giving it up. Now, let's go to the 9 forms of power. There are 5 freeing forms where you give control. And here they are. I'm just going to
rattle them off.
Okay, it's information, expertise, personality, ego, and moral. Those are the 5 freeing forms of power. What we are doing right now is called information power. People are listening. They're going to say, oh, I never thought about that. That's interesting. There are 5 freeing forms of power. I'm going to have to try to use those. That's information power, right?
Right.
Okay. Expertise. Every day on television and throughout your life, you're watching somebody do something that they're very good at.
Mm-hmm.
If they're an expert at it, you say, wow, I liked what they did. I'm going to try to do that. Again, freeing. You like you saw somebody do, and you say, I can do that. That's what happens in classrooms day after day. The teacher's teaching, demonstrating expertise in their subject, and the kids say, yeah, I like that. I'm going to keep that. I'm going to try to do that. Then you come to personality, and based on what I have seen about you on Facebook and other places,
mm-hmm.
you are very good with your personality.
Okay.
You've got a great personality. And because of that, you can ask people to do things, and what do?
They do them.
Yeah, it's free. It's free.
It's like, is there a real question here? What do you mean? I ask people to do something.
If people like you, all you got to do is ask.
That's what I keep telling people, not about me, but if people like you, you will succeed. And if they don't like you, you will fail, could fail.
This is true.
It's, you can sell ice to Eskimos if they like you.
Yeah. So personality power is a freeing form of power. Okay. When I taught my graduate leadership courses, I would always introduce my 8 forms of power. Okay. And I would say, I challenge you to come up with another form of power. There are no other forms.
Mm-hmm.
And one day, somebody in the back of the room says, I got one. I says, oh, what is it? He says, it's ego power. I says, ego power? How do you use that? He says, I'm a coach. He says, I stroke my students, the team's egos.
All those noise going on. I'm going to have to pay attention.
I don't know. Oh, it's a notice on my computer that I've got an email that just came in.
Oh, God.
I can't turn that off without turning my computer off. I've got all my phones turned off, so we're not going to get interrupted.
It's okay. So I'll see that this part is edited out.
Yeah. I said, well, give me an example of that. He says, well, I tell my team, I says, you guys have worked your butts off. You're just so good at it. I am sure that we're going to be up for this. And he says, yeah, coach, we're ready. Stroke their egos. And of course, I'm sure, Joanne, that you've stroked egos to get people to work with you, haven't you?
To a certain extent. Yeah, I'm sure I have. I was in sales for a long time. And
now, stroking egos is also manipulation.
I know.
So in chapter 4 in book 1, I described the 9 forms of power, the use and misuse of them.
Well, let's just stick with where we're at. We haven't finished. If you don't mind, we can go to moral.
You can overdo stroking egos, and they'll say, "Oh, here he comes again. I wonder what he wants."
Oh, of course, those are the people who keep calling you all the time. I don't. Yeah, no.
And the coach said, "There's another form of ego stroke that I use. It's called the negative ego stroke." He said, "And it works." I says, "Well, give me an example of that." He says, "Well, I remember going to my team one day and I said, hey guys, we're playing on the team across town. They are pretty good. I'm not sure we are going to be up for them. What do you think?" "What do you mean, coach?" Of course we're going to be up for them." So he did a negative ego stroke. The example in my book is Muhammad Ali, who was then Cassius Clay in the 4th grade. His teacher said to him, "Cassius, you're never going to amount to anything." When he won the gold glove in the 1960 Olympics, and I think it was in Cuba, guess where he went the first day he came back to his hometown?
To that teacher.
To that teacher. The negative ego stroke is powerful, but it is also manipulative. You got to know who to use it with, because if you use it with a kid or a person who's got a weak ego, they will say, "Yeah, you're right. I can't do it."
Yeah, you'll destroy them.
Yeah.
If they're young, you'll destroy them. If they're old, they've heard it before. But
Yeah.
I mean, really.
You come to the fifth freeing form of power, but the negative, the ego stroke, they're free to respond. You're not making them do it.
Sure.
So you're giving control with those four forms: information, expertise, personality, and ego. And then you come to the fifth one, which is the most important: moral power. What is the right thing to do in this organization, in this school, in this family? What are the rules? Are they understood? And many times the rules are not clearly understood, so moral power is not always in place. Let's take, for example, a family. What are the rules in between the kids and the parents in a family? In many cases, the kids don't know what the rules are. They learn what the rules are, but they're not really written. So my suggestion, and the same was true when I was a teacher, I went to the kids and I said, "What do you want the rules to be in this classroom?" And the kids said, "You want us to tell you what the rules are?" I said, "Yeah, I'd like to know what you think the rules ought to be here. Here's 3x5 cards." Now, parents can do this with their kids. Mm-hmm. You can go to the kids and give them some 3x5 cards and they say, "I want you to write down what you think the rules ought to be in our house." And you, again, give control without giving it up. So you get the rules back with them and you paraphrase what's in each pile, because there's one rule on each card, and you post them. And when I did this with students, they would look up at that post on the board and you could see the light bulbs going, "I wrote that rule. That's my rule. There's my rule. There's my rule." And now I'm working for the kids. It's their rules. And if there's a rule that I want that they didn't put in, I just put it in. Like the rule they never put in was turn your homework in on time.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
I always put it in, and they didn't know that they didn't write it. But when a rule was broken, whose rules were they breaking?
Their own.
Yeah.
So we've got the conflict management styles, we've got the free forms of power, and we have learned in one way how to gain control without giving it up. Okay. And I think that unless you have anything more for today, I think, audience, we've just had a master class from Dr. Cletus Bulach, retired Ohio school superintendent and associate professor emeritus at the University of West Georgia. Now, would you like to make a closing statement, Clete?
Well, when I said give control without giving it up, when you give control, what do you do when you don't give it up? There are four controlling forms of power: position, reward, and coercion. Most leaders have position power. With position power, you get the ability to give rewards, and you give the ability to punish. And there's a fourth controlling form of power called connection power. Do we have a couple of minutes to go on to that one?
Sure. Why don't you go ahead?
I'll use the example of a parent, husband and wife. The wife has an incident with one of the kids and says, "You wait till your dad comes home. I'm going to tell him what you just did." So the wife goes to the husband and says, "You know what your kid did today?" And she explains, and the husband says, "Well, I don't know what's so bad about that. I did that when I was a kid." What happens to the wife's position power because dad didn't support her? It's
that's
gone.
Bad. That's bad.
And that
happens a lot.
That goes on in every organization,
sure,
and every school out there. If the leader does not support the people that they put in leadership positions, their position power gets diminished. So there's four controlling forms of power: connection, reward, coercion, and reward power. And five freeing forms. So all leaders out there should start with the freeing forms of power. When they don't work, you take them back and use the controlling forms. And that's my ending statement.
Well, I hope everybody enjoyed this. If they have questions, re-listen to this podcast. That's all you can do. If you just listen to it over and over and over again for a couple of weeks, you'll find some ways to make some significant changes in your life. Well, I again thank Dr. Clete Bulach for being here today, and I thank you for listening to this podcast, people, listeners, whoever is out there, because if you're from the IT world or other places who have broken the barriers and come through and listen to this podcast, you know that, all the people on here are trying to help you live a sane, healthy, prosperous, and successful life. Thanks very much for being here today, Clete. We'll talk soon. Bye.
Thank you, Joanne.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Sanity Project podcast. Please go to AskJoanneVictoria.com and continue the conversation on my podcast page. And get a free copy of my book, The True Self Handbook, a guide to transform your life. That's AskJoanneVictoria.com. Take care, and thanks for being here.